Welcome to the DFW Blueprint, where the biggest in guys in the media game, content creators, we come on and we talk high school football, talk a little bit of recruiting, and some guys that took care of business or shine this week on the gridiron. I'm your host, Marc Henry, from the On Your Mark Show and On The Mark Sports. Also, Texas Prep Red Zone Texas, Top Texas Prospects as well. I got my guy Nick Dubose from Brandid Sports, and my guy this week hopping on, Adam from GP Sports, also with FridayNightGlory.com. Now, if you don't know Adam, you saw Nick last week, but Adam is one of the top young up-and-coming talents. Get to know him, follow him. We'll give you his social medias before we get out here, but Adam is a grinder, and he's one of the up-and-coming young guys in the DFW around the state of Texas. He also is a media guy for Team Texas Fury, or Team Fury out of the Houston area. My guy, shout out to Coach Grant and those guys. He does an awesome job down there, and he's all about getting those kids the exposure they need. But we'll come with my guy Nick Dubose from Brandid Sports first. Where'd you go this week, Nick?
This week, I went to the Richardson versus Garland game on Thursday night. And then I went out to Mount Pleasant Friday night to see a thriller, Sherman versus Mount Pleasant.
All right, well, let's talk about that first game a little bit. Richardson, they're usually flying around the playoffs or, just right on the edge. They've had some lean years there in the past, but what'd you see at that game?
Yeah, they were a playoff team, and they're a young team this season. But the Garland offense was just too powerful for them. Sergio Perez had an excellent night. Jordan Hudson, Ellis Rogers, Jay Sean Powers, a lot of those guys had excellent night just offensively. They opened it up. Jordan had 3 touchdowns in the first half, including the 99-yarder. So it got ugly a little early, but I'll tell you one thing. That Richardson team played hard. They competed. And the second half, it was way more of a game. And they definitely have some talent, a couple guys over there also, too, to build off of.
Well, we know about Jordan Hudson and a couple of those guys that committed to SMU. But I think one of the guys that flies under the radar is Sergio Perez, the quarterback. South Dakota committed, if I'm not mistaken. I had a chance to see him several times on the 7-on-7 circuit during the spring and summer. But I think he's one of the slept-on quarterbacks in the DFW. Talk about him just a little bit.
Man, Sergio had a wonderful night. He's a guy that here in DFW has been making a lot of noise the last 3 years. On the 7-on-7 circuit, team grind. And also, too, last year as a starter. That whole group has been playing together since they were young. They were a great freshman group, been playing since Little League, really, and have been on varsity since sophomores. So they're a well-oiled machine. He does a great job of leading that offense. His, precision, his command of the offense, does a good job of extending plays with his legs, very accurate with the football, strong arm. And really knows the game. He does a really good job of getting players in position, making the right checks. His dad is a coach, his brother coached college ball at McNeese State. He now coaches at North Dallas. So he comes from a great family, and he's been playing, with those guys for however long. So he definitely has a great command of that offense.
Well, the Owls, historically, you can go back to the mid-'90s and late '90s. They had really good teams over there and always have talent in the Garland area. I think it's one of the more underrated areas for talent just in the state of Texas, that little corridor of Garland. Always has had talented players. What do you think about the Owls going forward?
I think they're a team to definitely watch out for. Being a senior-led team, that really means a lot, especially in high school. Especially when you're quarterback and you have some talented guys, on the outside. Really on both sides. Aaron King is a guy who's going both ways for him. He scored their first touchdown. Like I said, I mentioned Ellis Rogers early. So they really have a lot of talent in the backfield. They have a couple guys that can run the football, and they wasn't even full strength. They were down a guy or two. And defensively, they really got after it, caused some turnovers. Flew around, really shut down that Richardson offense. And I think going forward, being a senior-led team, having playoff experience, I expect them to go a few rounds deep in playoffs this year.
Now, last week you made a trip up to Sherman and Denison in the East Texas, North Texas area. You spoke about Mount Pleasant. Again, this is another area where college recruiters are going to pluck out some of the talent that's unseen. Now, talk about that game a little bit.
Well, it was a thriller that Sherman won on a last-second Hail Mary, 36-35. Like I talked about, it was a thriller. Mount Pleasant has a great football team. They were actually down some guys. They have a defensive lineman that's committed to Baylor that didn't play, a running back that didn't play, but Miller McCumbee is a very talented receiver over there, also plays some tight end for him. Lane Pinkert, the head coach's son, he came in and did a really good job in the second half and really got them rallied, took the lead, had them in position to win the ball game late in the ball game. But Phoenix Grant from Sherman really had a great game. He wheeled the Bearcats to victory. He had 5 touchdowns, 3 in the air, 2 on the ground. 3 on the ground, 2 in the air, including the last-second Hail Mary to E.J. Chapman. J.D. Parker is another receiver that had a great game for him. Aries Jones had a couple big catches, Vontrell Sanders. So they did a good job. Kay Bowen, he did a good job. He's a freshman that's playing varsity or running back for him. But they battled defensively. They caused 5 turnovers. They bent, Mount Pleasant had them on the ropes. They were up by 11, 35-24. With over 4 minutes left in the ball game, and Sherman just found a way to get it done and get the victory. So both teams, they have a lot of talent. The running backs for Mount Pleasant, they were ground and pound. They grounded it all night. They really, Johnny Smith and a couple other those guys really did a really great job.
Well, you spoke about Sherman last week, and it sounds like they're a team that could be coming out of that neck of the woods. What do you think about the Sherman team going forward?
They're a team that, with a new head coach, Corey Kane, coming from Allen, has really taught them how to win. They've really bought into what he's preaching, him and the coaching staff. They do a really good job of not even just tapping in with the players, but also the community. A little secret, my son plays on the team, so that's why I go to all the Sherman games. But he is, he speaks highly of Coach Kane and all the coaches. And for them to get a win in that fashion, to be up, to have a lead, to lose the lead, to win late in the ball game, to win on the last play, now they know that they always have a puncher's chance to win and learning how to win. Now the next step for them is going to be consistency on doing the little things. And Coach Kane will do a great job of making sure they do that.
Well, I know that they always have talent up in that area. That, like I said, it's kind of Northeast Texas, right on the border of Oklahoma, but there's always untapped talent in that area between Sherman, Denison, Mount Pleasant, even going to Texarkana, New Boston area, Sulphur Springs. Always some talent that you don't know about that doesn't get, talked about on certain radars, but definitely shout out to my guys on the Scouts radar. We've been checking out that area as well.
Yeah.
So let's bring in my guy, Adam from GP Sports. He's also with FridayNightGlory.com. Again, he's one of the up-and-coming guys in the media game. He does a lot. He does graphics, he does video, and he definitely promotes athletes around the state of Texas. Adam, where were you at? You got a big one that everybody was talking about last week.
Yeah, so I started my week off Thursday at McKinney ISD. I saw McKinney Boyd versus Grand Prairie. That one popped up on my schedule just because Grand Prairie put up 60-plus points in week 1. And then Friday, I took the trip up to Denton to see the Battle of Denton Guy versus Denton Ryan. And that one ended in overtime fashion, which was a thriller that everyone was talking about.
Let's touch on Grand Prairie and McKinney Boyd. This was a big game. I think McKinney ended up winning 28-21, but Grand Prairie, the Gophers have been competitive. They had a big week 1 win, which you started the whole conversation about. But let's talk about GP first. There's a guy over there that is a great athlete. We all know who I'm about to talk about, but he's a man among boys when he gets the ball in his hands. They got him to the quarterback position now, and that's Savion Red. He's a dog. He's committed to SMU. I know that this guy's going to be must-see TV anytime he gets his hands on the ball. But now every play he touches the ball, and he's not just running; he's making some plays through the passing game. I know that they lost, and they got a big one coming up this week that we'll talk about toward the end. But talk about Savion Red and his performance these first 2 weeks so far.
I mean, Savion, like he just said, is just like a man amongst boys. To me, I say the kid is a monster. He really does it all. I mean, from last year to this year. Last year he accounted for 9 positions, and then this year they stuck him at QB to be the playmaker, and that's really all he did against McKinney Boyd. Just making plays last long on the run with his feet. Then letting the ball fly multiple times for big gains, and seeing him, like he said, with the ball, making something happen. Now he has to make something happen every single play. And honestly, that was the reason how Grand Prairie was able to come back and have a late push in that game. They came out in the second half, and McKinney Boyd scored 14 unanswered right out the gate. And then Savion took the team on his back and brought him back within a touchdown. And that's what really stirred up within the last 3 minutes on if maybe the comeback was going to be possible for him.
Now, give me your thoughts on McKinney Boyd. They squeaked out a good one up there, 28-21. That stadium is one of the best in the state of Texas, too, as well.
Yeah. McKinney Boyd showed a lot because both teams, I was told, were both trying to catch the brink of, not having successful seasons. And both teams are just trying to come up and be the next team to represent their city. And McKinney Boyd, as soon as Grand Prairie scored, they answered right back. And that's what really caught my eye first, is that they could score quick. And then, like I said earlier, when the second half started, they scored 14 unanswered real quick. They brought in, they had a wildcat formation that had probably like a 6-foot, 250-pound guy just taking the ball from the shotgun and just running it up the middle. And that's how McKinney Boyd stuck in it. And honestly, their receiver also for them had 2 passing touchdowns. Caden Park, man, he was hard to stop in the secondary. He was finding the little holes and little cracks in between the D to be wide open. And then he even came in on the defensive side too, and was on the final defensive drive that helped McKinney Boyd stop Grand Prairie from tying the game up late in the game.
Well, I think both teams, right on the cusp of that 3rd, 4th position in their respective districts. I know the GP is excited about the club and the group that they have going on over there, led by Savion Red. The big offensive line as well, I've heard about at Grand Prairie. Talk about those guys as well.
Yeah, this offensive line's got to be one of the biggest ones I've seen since when I was a freshman or sophomore there, when they had back then it was like everyone was 6'3", 300 pounds plus. And now they have more guys equivalent to that size. But I think for this, what makes them better is that these offensive linemen are more mobile. They can move. They got the feet under them. And it's crazy seeing a line like this, and it's beneficial because the quarterback with Savion back there, they give him time to make a play happen, and it's very hard to get through that Grand Prairie offensive line.
Well, I think I will definitely get eyes on them this week. We'll talk about that towards the end. But let's talk about the Battle of Denton, 5A, 6A. These guys, Hatfields and McCoys. We talked about that last week a little bit. Big brother, little brother. Denton Ryan, Denton Guy. I heard it was a barn burner, went into overtime. Give me a little insight on that.
That one, coming into that game, I had to get this one on my schedule, and I did. And like you said, I was expecting a close game, a great atmosphere, and everything behind it. Like you said, 5A, 6A, state champs versus a very playoff potential state championship team. East side versus South side. Everything was just built into this game, and most of these kids played with each other or against each other growing up, and they started out on Friday night. Again, it was a low-scoring game, only 21 points scored total the whole night. Denton Ryan struck first in the first half, late in the second quarter, with a touchdown pass by Kalen Davis. Beautiful touch on his balls, right over the defender only for his receiver to catch. And then after that, Denton Geyer really stopped the defense, and then that's how we went into the half. We went into the half 7-0. I was really expecting maybe a higher scoring game since both of those teams had very big wins in week 1. I was expecting both of them to put up points in this game, but that wasn't the case. And then Geyer came back in the second half and they came up with a touchdown pass, a one-handed catch to tie it up, and that really stirred up the confidence and turned the tides towards Denton Guyer for the rest of the second half. But both of them just battled it out. I think most of the plays after that for both sides, offensive, were going maybe 6 and out, 5 and out, and that clock was just ticking down. And my guy Terrence, who was with me, we were just wondering, like, it's gonna come down to a Hail Mary, a field goal, what's gonna come down to. And this one had to go into overtime and didn't. And Guyer got the ball first. And at the time, in my opinion, they had the momentum going into overtime. You know, they came back and tied it. They stopped Ryan when they needed to, and it showed off. On a third down play, they decided to go for the touchdown, and they let it fly. And he caught it in the back of the end zone with a defender all on him. And then now Denton Ryan had to come up and try to tie it at least. And they marched down the field with ease. You know, the little screen plays they run, inside runs too. And Ryan's offense just was not able to come up when they needed to. Guyer's defense locked them down and forced a fourth down, and they had to just shoot for the end zone to final play. And Marcon Pope, man, he knocked it down at the last play of the game, and that secured it. And Southside remains the runner of Denton.
Well, you hit the nail on the head. I was just about to talk about that Guyer secondary. You mentioned Pope, University of Pittsburgh commit. You got Peyton and Eli Bowen, who I had a chance to meet last week, top safety and corner on that team as well. That defense, they had to do that in order to shut down Ryan, because I was there against Longview, and that was a pretty potent offense. Caleb Hicks was coming off a spectacular performance, and Anthony Hill, who's the best linebacker in his class in 2023, also had a chance to tote the rock at the Jerry Jones Classic. What did those guys do collectively to stop a potent Ryan offense coming to that game?
It just seemed that they knew everything. If it was coaching, great. If they were watching film, they just knew exactly what was going to happen. At the first half of the game, again, they ran their screens almost every 2 plays. And I think Guyer got the hang of it, and everything was just locked down. Again, it seemed like they knew exactly what was going to come. If it was going to be a inside run by Hicks, or if they were just going to swing a screen pass to the outside. But again, it was hard. They made it hard for Ryan to score, and both teams made it hard. And honestly, all the points scored weren't easy points scored. Like I said, it was all with defenders, man in the quarterback's face to make a throw. So I think the secondary towards the end for Denton Guyer is what really locked down, because I could tell by Kalen Davis or Ryan, the quarterback, he was looking for someone to throw it to and, you know, find someone open for anything, and nobody was just there for him.
Well, that takes me to my next question. Those are 2 of the better quarterbacks in the junior class in the DFW. Jackson Arnold, Kalen Davis, K5, came into a big game. What did you see from both of those guys going forward that lets you know that they're going to have successful seasons?
That both of them in their divisions, 5 and 6A, they're the top dogs. For Kalen, I've known him since he was a freshman. He came up to me once and just told me about him at a camp once, and I just kept up with him and seeing him grow. And then for him, he was always behind Seth Hennigan, who's now the starting quarterback at Memphis, and he sees this is his time to shine, and he's put Denton Ryan on his back for himself and for the school. And he's a great leader. So I think for him in 5A, he can possibly bring a state championship back to Denton Ryan once again. And for Denton Guyer, again, a 6A team, everybody talked about this, a 6A going against a 5A, but that's probably one of the best 6A teams in the state. And with their quarterback, he's phenomenal. He had plenty countless of plays on the run, making him last, and his arm strength was crazy. Both of his majority of his passes were for 20 plus yards, and it was just great to see that the future for both high schools are in good hands.
I agree wholeheartedly. Jackson Arnold was a young freshman when he popped on the scene. Eli Stowers had a knee injury in the state championship game. Yeah. One of my favorite running backs, Kadrick Cobbs, I called him the closer at the time. He's at UTSA, had to tote that load by himself. But young Arnold came in and he took some Slobberknocker type hits. And so to see him mature and grow up into this heavily recruited quarterback as a junior, that says what that program means and what they do as far as building as far as building the talent there, and you can go to Denton County anywhere and find elite Division I type talent, and both of those teams will definitely be probably in the last 4 teams standing in the state of Texas in their respective 5A and 6A classes. Now, before we get out of here on the DFW Blueprint, where we're giving you the blueprint on high school football here in the DFW and surrounding areas, we'll let Nick go first, and then we'll come back to Adam and just a couple of players that stood out this week and where you're going on your radar for your games this week.
I got 2 players, both quarterbacks I saw this week, Sergio Perez and Phoenix Grant. They had excellent ball games. One had 6 touchdowns, the other one had 5. Both led their team to victories. One was a blowout, the other was a last-second victory. But the quarterbacks, they put on the show live in action, and I was able to see them live in action. So they are my players of the week and players to watch.
Adam, go ahead and give me a couple of players that you saw this week that you interviewed that stood out in your mind on the gridiron.
I'm going to go with 2. The first one will be, I got to say, Marquand Pope from Denton Geyer. Again, a lockdown defender and really the captain on the defensive side, and, came up really clutch in the final play of the game. And, again, Pitt commit. So, again, he has a great year ahead of him at Denton Geyer, going, again, probably one of the last 4 teams standing. And the second player I'd have would be a player that I did not cover, but I was watching the game at the Catholic Bowl, running back from Nolan Catholic, Kewan Lacey. He had over 200 yards in that game as Nolan Catholic won in overtime. And saw him last week in Argyle as well, and I think he reached over the 100-yard mark in a tough loss. But also he's a sophomore at Nolan Catholic, so I'm really interested in seeing him play. He had a good performance last week as well.
Yeah, we were both at that game against Argyle. Nolan Catholic had to get the quarterback situation right, and I was kind of watching some of you guys' highlights when I was in Cleveland last night watching Dallas Carter, and it looks like it was a barn burner. And shout out to one of my guys over there at Nolan Catholic. If you don't know this guy, his name is Jackson Reed, and I know you saw him last night. He had a couple kick returns. He also plays DB. He's probably one of the toughest players pound for pound on that whole squad, and he's been making some noise the last couple of years. He was a preseason selection on the TAP 6A as a defender. College coaches, Jackson Reed, he might be undersized, but he's got the heart of a dog. I'm telling you, this guy has been on my radar for a couple of years, and he's definitely he can tote the rock if they need him. Get the ball in his hands and he's going to make a play. He had a couple kickoff returns last night, and, he just turned on the afterburners. Now, he might be undersized, but he's a playmaker. He's got next level potential, and I think college coaches should be knocking on his door. Now, Nick, Adam, this is the part of the show where we find out where you're going. Nick, tell me where you're going first, and then Adam, you follow up behind Nick and let me know what games you're going to.
Thursday, I haven't decided. I got a couple games down that I'm looking at. Either Nimitz or Creekview, Denton Braswell, Garland Saxe, or Rock Hill and Frisco Liberty. So, one of those games. Cedar Hill Allen, we're going to be live on location for that game. And then also Sherman and Saginaw, we'll be at that game and a couple more games. But follow us on Twitter. Thursday, we'll announce what games we'll have. We'll have different people around the state going to some games.
Go ahead, Adam.
For me, Thursday, I'm going to keep it local and go and stay home, and I'm going to catch Grand Prairie Mesquite. Interested in seeing this Mesquite team. They've been playing the Grand Prairie schools, honestly, the past 3 years collectively. So this seems like a very unknown rivalry in a sense. They've always been playing each other, so it's going to be nice to catch that. And Friday, as of now, I'm still open, but I'm looking for a game Friday. Lancaster is on the brink, possibly Gunter, and I'm looking at Sunnyvale. Couple of schools looking out for, so trying to see where the locations are at. But those are my final 3 schools I got to break it down to see who I'll end up seeing Friday night.
Well, I think I'll be at the Mesquite versus Grand Prairie game. Want to see quarterback Chance Edwards. He's another guy in the DFW area's quarterback position that may not be getting all the talk or the looks. But this is a guy we're talking about 6'2", 6'3". He can sling it. He's mobile. He's got some college. He's on some colleges' radar. but I think that, he just hadn't been seen. He did make travel around and do a few camps, but I want to see Chance Edwards live for Mesquite, which is why I'm coming. That'll be a Thursday night game. Shout out to my brother from Top Texas Prospects, Matt Davidson, who's the man on the mic over there. I had a chance to talk with Matt yesterday, and so I'll be there Thursday. Friday, I'm thinking I'm going to DeSoto, so I'm tentatively scheduling that. So those will probably be the two games that I get, unless I catch a Saturday one like I did last night. Shout out to Dallas Carter. They came back last night against Cleveland. They were down 27-8. Definitely got some talent over there, lots of speed. It's the first time I've been wanting to see a historic program just about Dallas Carter. When I grew up, they were head and shoulders above the rest. Back in '88, even though they got the title taken from them, but I caught wind of it, went down to Cleveland, and got a real good game that ended up 36-34 in Carter's favor. But those are the two games that I'll be at most likely this week. Adam, give out your social medias where everybody can follow you and follow GP Sports and Friday Night Glory.
Yeah, both on Instagram, the same thing. It's AFGP_sports. Just every weekend, just trying to find the top athletes and promote them and give them the opportunity to have a chance at the next level. And that's really it for the whole fall for me. And then I'm also on the 7-on-7 circuit and traveling all over the nation for 7-on-7 football. So that's where you can follow me again at AFGP_sports.
There you have it, man. Another blueprint laid for the DFW. Your host, Marc Henry, for Nick Dubose, Adam from GP Sports. We'll catch you next week, and we'll bring you the blueprint of DFW in week 3, and we'll see where everybody went and who shined.